Hello, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for joining the press conference after the Foreign Affairs Council. You will be briefed about the discussions and the topics the ministers had on their agenda by High Representative José Borrell, who was chairing this meeting today. High Representative, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. It has been a long and intense Foreign Affairs Council. Let me focus on the two main issues which reflect our strategic priorities. The Western Balkans in one side and the relations with the United States in the other. For sure there were a number of other current issues. Let me cite among them Palestine. Let me start with it. Our initial focus was on the situation with regard to the postponed Palestinian elections, but we also discussed about the serious situation on the ground. Today, which is, by the way, Jerusalem Day, is a very sensitive moment. We are deeply concerned over the recent clashes and violence, including against this morning in and around the Haram al-Sharif and the Temple Mount. It's clear that all sides must uphold and fully respect the status quo of the holy sites, and all leaders have a responsibility to act against extremists. But I have to recall what we have been saying during the weekend, the situation with regard to the evictions of Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah and other areas of East Jerusalem is a matter of serious concern. I want to repeat what we have already been saying. Such actions are illegal under international humanitarian law and only serve to fuel tensions on the ground. It is important that everything possible will be done to avoid fueling tensions. And we note that the decision to stop Jewish worshippers from accessing the esplanade is a positive one that can calm the situation. On Western Balkans, it has been a long discussion. The region has a special role in Europe and for Europe. We agreed that the Western Balkans is a region of key geostrategic role for the European Union. Our commitment to the Western Balkans needs to be very visible, and we should leave no doubt in this respect. And the message that the ministers sent today was very clear. They reaffirmed the European perspective of the whole region. But it's not only about the enlargement process. We want to ensure that we have a political engagement with our partners, from addressing the COVID pandemic and vaccines, economic cooperation, connectivity, and how to tackle external influence, reduce disinformation, just to name a few issues. During our discussion, there was a wide agreement on the need for Western Balkans to accelerate the European Union-related reforms and reinforce positive and constructive narrative. We need to advance on the accession process of Albania and North Macedonia. And by the way, it has never been any intention of decoupling both countries on the accession process. EU integration with Serbia and Montenegro needs to be taken forward. We need progress on visa liberalisation for Kosovo. We ask it to the member states. There was also a clear expectation for the swift resumption of Belgrade-Pristina dialogue that, as you know, will restart before the end of June, as we agreed with the Prime Minister of Kosovo recently. We recall continued and strong support for Bosnia and Herzegovina's territorial integrity and sovereignty. I have to repeat it once again. The ministers agreed on the need for Bosnia and Herzegovina to use this year to advance constitutional and electoral reform. We need to continue supporting these efforts through a daily engagement of our special representative in Sarajevo. We also agreed to look at ways to enhance our already intense cooperation on security and global issues. Let me stress that our help to fight against coronavirus pandemic come with no strings attached. We talk about donations. We are not selling, we are donating. And this donation come on top of our global substantial contribution to COVAX, and we don't put conditions to the states that receive this help. The second big item in our agenda was transatlantic relations. I will repeat one again, that with the new administration we have excellent and operational relations. We have already made progress together on some important issues, such as re-engaging the US on the JCPOA, relaunching the dialogue on China, suspending temporarily tariffs under the Airbus-Boeing dispute, or liaising on responses to developments in Russia and Myanmar. This renewed partnership between the European Union and the United States is based on more engagement, more coordination, and cooperation. And it's already happening, and it has been demonstrated today in the exchange of views with the US Special Presidential Envoy on Climate, John Kerry. All member states participated on the exchange of views, together with the Vice President, Franz Timmermans, about how to increase global climate ambitions, especially among the world's biggest economy, how to keep our promises, how to lead by example, and how to motivate others to do more. We agreed to work systematically together to set new borders, new frontiers in our climate ambition, and scale up efforts to prompt partners to deliver the best possible commitment under the Paris Agreement. We'll do that bilaterally and multilaterally in the G7 and the G20 meetings, with the hope that we can push progress with all big emitters. Well, turning to the current issues that kept us busy today, we once again expressed our solidarity with the Czech Republic and Bulgaria in light of the recent events related to Russia. I have to repeat again that the pattern of negative actions by the Russian government continues, and it fits the dynamic of escalation. Today's exchange will fit into the European Council discussion on EU-Russia relations on the next 25th of May. Allow me some words about the JCPOA. I've been briefing my colleagues about the negotiations. You know that the High Rep is also the coordinator of the JCPOA. These remain an extremely delicate and intense diplomatic process. I dare to say that I am optimistic. There is a window of opportunity that will stay open for a couple of weeks until the end of the month, but a lot of work is needed, time is limited, and I hope that the negotiations will enter in a phase of non-stop in Vienna. We talk also about global health, vaccination. We have a look at the situation, how the EU is delivering. It's important to notice that the European Union has exported almost 200 million doses, precisely 192 million doses, and at the same time vaccinating our own population. This export effort is considerably bigger than China with 147 million, and Russia with only 10 million, and the US and UK almost zero. We will continue to play its role in leading the multilateral response through COVAX. Two more issues that has been in the agenda, and it's something that worries us. Lebanon and Belarus. On Lebanon, the situation continues deteriorating. The country is collapsing. Its people is suffering. But the political leaders are not taking responsibilities while the country is literally falling apart. I had a conversation to prepare this meeting yesterday with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Lebanon. I expressed my concern, and we are working on an approach that combines, let's say, carrots and sticks. All actions are being examined, and the purpose is to pressure Lebanese leaders individually that are preventing the country from overcoming the dramatic impasse it's facing. The minister explained me the difficulties they are facing. He invited me to visit Lebanon and to have a conversation about these difficulties and the way to overcome them. The work will continue because we believe that much more can be done, and quickly. And in Belarus, the regime continues its repression and intimidation against their own citizens. Now they are targeting the Polish community. We are working on the next sanctions package, which I hope will be adopted in the coming weeks. It will be another sanctions package taking into account everything that's happening in the country, including the way the regime is targeting the Polish community. Well, I think it's a brief outline of the main points of a council that started at 9 o'clock and lasted until almost 4:30. But I think it was interesting and fruitful, and I remain at your disposal.
Thank you very much. So now we go to questions. First hand raised was from Tanya Milevska, Macedonian Information Agency. Tanya, wait for a second until your mic will be open. The mic should be open any second now. Okay, I see that the mic is still closed. Can I ask colleagues from the technical support to open the microphone of Tanya Milevska? It's the first hand which was raised. Tanya, try to ask your question. No, we lost you. We don't hear you. Okay, yeah, we lost Tanya. Okay, so let's go to next question. Dusan Gajic from Serbian television. Dusan, let's see if it works with you. Dusan Gajic from. So if we can open your microphone. Okay, try to go ahead. Yeah, it's open. Dusan, you can go ahead.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. Yes, so Dusan Gajic, Radio Television of Serbia, Mr. High Representative. You mentioned in your introduction that EU integration accession talks with Serbia and also with Montenegro should be moved forward. What could be expected in this respect in June? Is it realistic to expect intergovernmental conference, which will, after a long period of time, almost a year and a half, bring opening of new chapters? And secondly, on the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina, is there anything more specific on the possibilities of the first meeting that should happen before end of June? Is there anything more specific when to expect that? Thank you.
No, there are no new news since the last time we talked about it, and since the last time we talked about it with the new Prime Minister of Kosovo. They need time to prepare. They claim that the outcoming government didn't inform them about the situation of the previous talks, that they have just arrived, that they need to study carefully the dossier. I understand, but at the same time, we cannot go on holidays without having restarted the talks. And finally, we agreed that before the June General Affairs Council, which is by the 20th of June, more or less, at the end of June, before the General Affairs Council on June, we will have to have this meeting again. And I hope that they have all information required. We can provide, if they don't have it, in order to come to Brussels well prepared. Next week, as my predecessor was doing, I invited the leaders of the Western Balkan countries to come to Brussels and to have a meeting, a dinner, and to discuss the whole political situation of the Western Balkans as we did today. I want to mention one thing. It is the first time on the last 2 years that the Foreign Affairs Council takes stock of the Western Balkans. For the first time in 2 years, the Western Balkans is on the agenda of the Foreign Affairs Council. Quite strange. Huh? And some ministers were not blaming, but complaining that this is the case, and they are right. Western Balkans is a big geopolitical problem. It's not just about adhesion. Adhesion is part of the situation, part of the problem, part of the solution. But there are many other problems related with the Western Balkans which are on and above, out and in, but different from the adhesion process. Everything is intertrenched. But we have to look at the Western Balkans from a geopolitical perspective, and that's what we did today. That's what we'll do next week with the leaders of the Western Balkan countries. I hope all of them will come. And I told the ministers, look, today we agreed on the principles, we agreed on the basis. Now I hope you to make concrete proposals in order to continue advancing. And we are not going to stay 2 more years without putting in the agenda the Western Balkans, not even 2 months. Before the summer, the Western Balkans will be again in our agenda, and we will consider the proposals that the member states will be able to do. If there are proposals, we will go again to study. If they are not, we can wait for the autumn. But if there is a momentum, we have to continue pushing for this momentum, because all member states, all ministers agreed that we have to engage more with the Western Balkans. I cannot say you about opening chapters or closing chapters or which are the advanced. The only thing that worries us is the situation in North Macedonia, and there has been some news about decoupling, or taking separately North Macedonia and Albania on the adhesion process. From this point of view, everything remains the way it was.
Thank you very much. We try once again Tanya Milevska. So Tanya, I see that your hand dropped at the bottom of the list. I see that the mic should be open now. Hopefully we will be able to hear you. Go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Problem. So I want to come back on North Macedonia and the EU engagement with the region. So, High Representative, you said that you want genuine engagement and not just declarative engagement in the region and so on. And you have a momentum with North Macedonia in the sense that the country is ready. It's the only country that has made important bilateral regional agreements with its neighbors. So it's kind of leading in the region, and yet you allow one member state to block the entire process. So how do you plan on being credible on this issue if you allow one member state to block because of identity and language issues? So did you discuss this? And what do you think of what is happening with North Macedonia in particular?
Yes, we had a conversation about it. We listened to Bulgaria, and we encourage both Bulgaria and North Macedonia to urgently find a mutually acceptable solution for the pending bilateral issues. About North Macedonia, the conditions have been met by North Macedonia, and the member states already decided to open accession negotiation with North Macedonia. And I hope that the first intergovernmental conference should be convened soon after the adoption of a negotiation framework by the Council. And the member states, the foreign affairs ministers of member states, today got the commitment of pushing hard in order to call for this first intergovernmental conference as soon as possible in order to adopt this negotiation framework.
Thank you very much. We probably changed the topic and the region. Next question goes to Magdi Youssef. Your microphone is open now. You can go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Go ahead.
Do you hear me?
We hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, High Representative. If you allow me, I'm going outside of the main topic. So far, Ethiopia did refuse all the Sudanese and the Egyptian proposal to achieve an agreement for the Ethiopian dam, which could lead, as the Egyptian president said, to a very big a region or an instability in the region. Is Europe is willing to do something to push Ethiopia for a negotiation to arrive to an agreement before it's too late? Thank you very much.
I'm sorry to say, today we haven't been talking about it. There is nothing new. It was not in the agenda. Nobody raised the issue. I can say what I already said in previous situation, but there is nothing new. For sure, we are participating in the talks, and we are putting pressure on all sides to look for a peaceful and agreed solution. And we hope that Ethiopia will not start refilling or restarting activities that could create a bigger tension with Sudan and Egypt. But today, sorry to say, there is nothing new about it.
Thank you. So let's go back to the topics on the agenda of the ministers. Next question, Nureddin Fridhi. Nureddin, your mic will be open. Just a second. It still takes a few seconds. Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, High Representative. I have a question on Iran. You have your own reason to be optimistic about the ongoing talks in Vienna. Do you think that the deal which will be reached in Vienna, hopefully, will be the right platform accepted by all sides, mainly the Iranian, that this platform could help the region and Iran, European Union, United States, international community to deal with the other issues, the ballistic missiles program of Iran, as well as its role in the region? Thank you very much.
Let's go step by step. Let's go step by step. I said that I dare to say that I am optimistic, but not about the whole universe. I am optimistic about what's going on in Vienna. What's going on in Vienna is an effort to make the US to go back to the agreement in order to have a full compliance for Iran, which is the best way to ensure the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. The purpose of this negotiation is to go back on track and have Iran and the US back to full implementation. What can I say is that these talks are being constructive, and there have been some moderate advances. As you know, in this kind of conversation, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. The efforts of my team, of the European Union team, is working very hard, and they are in Vienna. They will continue being there. But don't ask me for the following steps, what's going on after. Let's go step by step. This is a very sensitive process. We have to work quickly. We only have a couple of weeks. Not everything will be solved in this couple of weeks. There will be a lot of other issues that will be put on the table later on. But by the time being, let's try to go back on track of the previous agreement.
Thank you. Next question, Jacopo Barigazzi. Jacopo, you will be able to ask your question in 2 seconds approximately. We still have to wait for the mic. It's open now.
Thank you. High Rep. I have a question on a point that many would have liked to see in the agenda of this FAC and also the previous one, but unfortunately was not possible, which was the Hong Kong conclusions. They are still stuck. There was an attempt in Coreper, and I was wondering whether you got the chance today to speak to your Hungarian counterparts or whether you are planning any outreach to unblock these conclusions, and what do you think is going to be the future of this text, because whether there will be a new draft, and whether you think that it will be a solution for the next FAC to have on the table the Hong Kong conclusions. Thanks.
Some kind of solution will have to be found much before the next FAC. We decided to give one more week of working at the technical level groups in order to look for a solution that the 27 member states can accept. By the time being, it's not the case. But I want to do a last effort in order to get unanimity. And if unanimity is not reached, then, as it has happened in the past, we'll have to take positions which doesn't reflect unanimity. But I still believe that it should be possible, and we will continue working for one more week, but not on the next FAC, just one more week.
Thank you. And one last question, Yuri Sheiko, Deutsche Welle. Yuri, 1 second. Now the mic is open. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me well?
Very well.
Yeah, great. High Representative, I have 2 questions on Russia. First one, you already said that ministers expressed solidarity with Czechia and with Bulgaria, but as far as I understand, Prime Minister of Czechia, he asked other EU countries to expel at least one Russian diplomat. So can you tell us, did a Czech minister raise this question and asked for expulsion of additional Russian diplomats, and what was the reaction to this, if he asked? And the second question, you said about the European Council that will be on the May 25th with its strategic discussion on Russia. Given what happened during the last week's military build-up, the conflict with Czechia, and then this list or Putin's order on unfriendly states, and so on and so on. Given all of this, did you change your or minister's mind about what was previously said, how the strategy on Russia should be changed or should not be changed? What is the view now after all these things happened? Thank you very much.
Well, today, before the Council, I had the pleasure to have a coffee with the new Foreign Affairs Minister of Czechia. I was in Lisbon attending the meeting of the European Union Council, where the issue of Russia was on the table. It was deeply discussed. And today, as well as the leaders did during the past weekend, we reassured Czechia with the strong support of the European Union. But at the same time, I think that everybody agrees on the need of not continue an escalation, that we need to look for a strong support, but at the same time to try to not to increase the tensions. I know that the European Union Council will discuss about Russia on the 25th of May, and maybe after this discussion, the High Representative and the Commission could be charged of presenting an analysis of the situation and of the relationship with Russia, as we did with respect to Turkey. Let's wait what the leaders discuss on the next 25th of May. By the time being, it's not in the agenda to continue the escalation of expulsions of diplomats.
Thank you very much. So that was it, the press conference. Colleagues, thank you very much for your attention, for your time. Thank you to the interpreters, and have a nice evening. Goodbye.